Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special bonus episode of Moving Right Along, a Muppet movie podcast brought to you by toughpigs.com. This is normally the podcast where we watch Muppet Treasure Island 2 minutes at a time and talk about it a lot. I'm your host, Ryan Rowe.
I'm your other host, Anthony Strand.
And today we are actually going to be doing something a little different. We're talking about the Muppet Treasure Island CD-ROM game in its entirety. And
2 minutes at a time.
2 minutes at a time. Yep, get used to it. It's going to be a long haul here. So the voice that you just heard is our guest, the writer of the Muppet Treasure Island CD-ROM. Guest, please introduce yourself.
My name is Craig Shemin. I'm the writer of the Muppet Treasure Island CD-ROM, or one of the writers, I should say.
Okay.
So that's the first question: is who did you write it with?
Yeah,
I wrote it by myself, but there were other people. Like I think Mark Leparco did some of the writing. He was the main producer from Activision. And Ray De Laurentiis did some fill-in stuff too, and I primarily did the main stretch of dialogue, and then there were some of the parrot stuff came later, and I was already working on something else. So I never really worked with other writers. I worked with Mark Leparco a lot because it was sort of when you write a thing like this, it's up to the game creators, because I did not come up with the gameplay. I was basically, writing the dialogue. And you'd sit in a room. And I remember going out to Activision in Los Angeles, and you sit in a room and you're like, well, this is going to happen. You're going to poke on this, and we need Rizzo to say 5 things. So I'm like, okay, Rizzo's got to say 5 things in this situation. It's a little different from writing, a regular script. And that may be one of the reasons, because it was this gig was first brought to Kirk.
Okay, Kirk Thatcher, one of the writers.
Yeah, Kirk Thatcher, and they like, do you want to do this? And his response was basically, I don't want to do it, have Shemin do it. Huh. And I was happy because I was in the middle, or had just been doing another CD-ROM game. So I had some experience. And I think that's one of the reasons that, because it was a very new technology.
Sure. And that was the Muppets Inside? Was the
Muppets
other one?
Inside, yeah. Sure. Which you can also see on YouTube. There are some playthroughs of that. So the only place I can see it now.
Yeah. It's a little hard to actually play these.
At the time, when we were getting ready to do the Muppets Inside, we were just incredibly skeptical because no one had Windows 95 yet. It hadn't been introduced. And we were writing and creating this game, and everybody was like, seriously? This is only going to be playable on Windows 95? No one had it yet.
Right.
And we were just like, no, nobody's going to get Windows 95. And they're like, oh, it's going to be on all the new computers. It's going to be great. There's going to be a Weezer video on it. I mean, it's
Wait, what was the other one?
Oh yeah,
is it Edie Brickell? There was another music video.
So, yeah.
That came
was that right?
Windows 95, yeah.
But they actually had to get us new computers when I was working on this, because
that's funny.
When I first started at Henson, this was not that long before that. It was like 1988. There were like 2 or 3 computers in the building, tops, and they were these old IBM PS2s, I think, or whatever it was. It was just, and there were no graphics. It was just to do word processing and accounting stuff. And, one of the good things about working on the computer games is they give you a computer. It's like, well, he's got to have a new computer to do this.
Of course.
And so that you get a new computer, because I had to look at all the Muppet Show clips, and I had to go through all of the stuff that they would send.
Right. Yeah. So that's a difference between this one and Muppets Inside, where Muppets Inside has a storyline sort of where you're traveling through your computer, unlocking fragments of the game. And the reward is seeing video clips from the Muppet Show.
Right.
But this one, I guess you kind of by necessity had to follow more of a storyline because it's the story of the movie.
Exactly. And I think there are still there are rewards at the very end. There are some clips from the movie
Yeah.
that run at the very end. But by and large, you're sort of following the storyline. And the other thing that's challenging, you're doing that and you have to change the discs as you go because there's too much content for one CD. I think there's 3 CDs. I think originally they were afraid it was going to have to be on 4 CDs. Wow. But basically it was 3, one for each of the main, areas of the story.
I actually never played the game when it came out. I, for some reason, never found it at my local Circuit City. But I did watch. There's a few watch throughs on YouTube, as you mentioned, and yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like when you listen to an MP3 of an old Sesame Street record, and they say, "Okay, it's time to turn the record over." It's the same kind of thing where they say, "Okay, you need to switch this."
Exactly.
The CD-ROM you're looking for looks like this, and it's like it's the pink one.
And when I was looking at it today, and we're like, yeah, it's great that they were able to get Billy Connolly and Tim Curry
and Tim Curry's in it, yeah.
But it was all being done at the same time as the movie was being made. So we had to work ahead. I was working from various drafts of the screenplay because this had to be shot at the same time. Both the content for Muppets Inside, as I recall, the content for Muppets Inside and for Treasure Island were done at the same time as the movie was being shot. They basically set up a stage across from where they were shooting the movie.
Okay.
And whenever any of the performers had off time, and it's like, oh, they need you over at the CD-ROM stage, and they would, shoot stuff for the movie. And I think, they just basically went through and shot for both of these projects. And the shame is I didn't get to go over.
Oh,
because, it's like, oh, one person you don't need is the writer. So I still had to maintain a London schedule because they may need me.
Oh, if they had questions.
So I would get up really early and I was sort of on call while they were doing that. And I would get faxes, but this is back in the era of faxes.
Sure.
I get faxes. We need, 5 more lines for this, or we need another way for this to bridge that gap. And, I'd write up material. I'd fax it over. And this is the days, not just faxes, but those flimsy, shiny paper faxes where, it's you're trying to flatten it out so you can read it. It's all, it all comes off a roll.
Wow. Yeah.
Back at Henson, this is in the old townhouse, down in the mailroom, there was a fax machine. And I think later on we may have gotten our own fax machine upstairs, but there was a fax machine. The fax would come in and the mailroom would staple it together and you'd get it eventually. But I'd be going down there constantly just to see if there was. And this was so, they still had a telex machine in the basement of Henson.
I actually don't understand how telex worked.
Well, it's basically it's a telegraph, but with a typewriter keyboard.
Oh,
so
okay.
instead of like Morse code and stuff, it's basically to send immediate messages. It's like an email, but it's you can't really type long things. If you're gonna like type a message like, "Hey, we got Tim Curry to be in this movie," boom, telex, and
Okay.
you would find out immediately. But I think that was there from like the Muppet Show days when they would have to send telexes to the workshop immediately.
So by this time it was just like old habits kind of.
Well, it was just sitting there. I don't remember the telex being used during my era.
Yeah.
Because the fax sort of superseded. The fax was magical because you can actually send a drawing. You could send a sketch or something.
Yeah.
Sure. I had a question. You said you worked off various drafts of the screenplay. And is that how Stevenson the parrot ended up in the game? He was just like a vestigial character?
I think that he was there because there needed to be a device. Because the concept, and this was a concept that was solidified before I even came on, I think Mark Leparco figured this. He wanted the player to be Hawkins.
Right.
And there were different iterations. I think in one of the early drafts, I think Gonzo was Hawkins, or Gonzo and Rizzo were like Jim and Hawkins. There was like a team.
We've heard that there was a version of the script, where Gonzo and Rizzo were Jim and Hawkins.
And I think that they figured that the player was going to be Hawkins, and they needed sort of a player assistant. In a lot of these games, you need someone to be able to respond to questions, or if you get stuck, you need to do that. And they didn't feel that it should be one of the Muppets. It didn't. You don't want to take Kermit out of that game to provide that information.
Right.
And I think that they came up with Stevenson from Robert Louis Stevenson, just to have a character that could be that sort of ride the line between being in the game and being outside of the game, to be the player's sort of avenue into the gameplay. So if you needed to see what you were carrying, or if you needed to find, to get a piece of advice on where to go next, you had this character that you could rely on. And I think that may have come later in the game in terms of the development. I don't know. That's why I think at some point, and I don't really remember, at some point someone may have said, after everything was shot in London, they may have said, hey, we need some character to do this. And I think that they didn't want it to be Polly, because he was sort of established as the bad guy.
Yeah, he would be working against you.
Yeah. I really don't know if it was part of the idea from the beginning, but I do know that was sort of explicitly created just so the player had someone that they could look to help with.
Right. Well, and even in the game, he's credited as introducing Stevenson as your adventure parrot. Mm-hmm. Did you write that?
Probably, possibly. No, it possibly, but no. I think a lot of that stuff may have been created after the fact, while they were trying to figure out how to put all this together.
Okay, sure, yeah. I just think it's such a fun phrase that it's like he's your butler, he's your adventure parrot. Right?
No, I think that came after, because I was doing basically anything that the classic Muppet characters that were in the movie and the human characters were doing.
Yeah.
And, one of the fun things, if you look at the gameplay, if you look on YouTube, this was a very primitive technology. And one of the sort of rules we had to follow, and it was more about the directing and the art direction of it, is that in Windows 95, to get good-looking full-motion video, you were confined to essentially a quarter of the screen.
I was wondering about that.
So, if you look at each shot with that in mind, you can see what quarter of the screen they're doing. Sometimes it's a slice across the middle if it's a character moving. So, that full motion video would then be overlaid over a still, which you could have, take up the whole screen. But that's why, like in Muppets Inside, it starts with Kermit opening up a little slice of the center of the screen. And all the gameplay, all the action with the characters taking place behind that little narrow thing. And that, we did that because it was funny that that's all they could open the screen. But the reason that exists is that narrow strip in the middle is a quarter of the screen.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's what we could do with full motion video. So as you look, essentially that's what's happening. So you're going to see the characters take up about a quarter of the screen, not necessarily the same quarter, but that was sort of the restriction we were operating with.
Yeah. And yeah, I noticed they are often sort of hiding behind things or obscured by things, which is actually, it works because we're used to that with Muppets. But then it also happens with like Tim Curry shows up and it's only the top half of him.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is you're also, they have to reset to a neutral position. So you had to have Billy Connolly looking like off. He delivers a line, he looks to you, and then he has to look back to the where he started.
Right.
So it could, once he's in that neutral position, they can have him be a still image until he talks again.
Huh.
So it's a lot of like little technical things that must have been very challenging to the actors. And this was at a time when they probably had not had to do something like this. And
Right.
it's easier for the Muppets because they can see what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
And where they are. And I think that they could put like a wax overlay over the monitor, a clear overlay of the monitor, and write on it with a wax pencil and say, we need Gonzo to get back to this position.
Okay.
And, you could do that because you could see where you're going. And the puppeteers had that advantage because the actors just can't see where they are on on a monitor.
Yeah.
So that, I think, there's a lot of having to, work with the actors and sort of explain why they need to return to that neutral position. And sometimes that neutral position could be hiding behind something.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's what it
you can
seems
pop up, deliver your line, and pop back down.
Yeah.
And that's the neutral position. And that makes it easier on everybody.
Yeah, there's a whole sequence where Rizzo does that. He's in a bowl eating apples and he keeps popping up and then going back down.
Yeah, and then it was all about how many times do we think they're going to click on Rizzo. So that's when they would say, so they say we need. So it's a matter of trying to come up with as many as lines as you have, and you have to contrast that against how much bandwidth you have on the disk to fit. So it's like, well, we'd really like to have 9 responses, but we can only fit 5 of them, so we're going to do 5.
Yeah. So there were some that you wrote that even got cut, possibly?
It's possible, yeah. That's one of the problems is that, it's not a problem, but I'm glad that I didn't have to deal with a lot of the technical stuff because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm not a technical guy, but where I was involved is coming up with ideas and helping with bringing the character elements to the gameplay and doing the dialogue.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of it was just kind of figuring out how it was going to work because most people hadn't worked on these CD-ROM projects before. But
exactly,
it was such a leap from like a game that would fit on a floppy disk that it was. These kinds of games were very exciting at the time.
Yeah, and it's a different thing because what you're trying to do is do this, this adventure style game where you're gathering items. It's sort of this primitive role play because you're playing as Hawkins. And the difference was in Muppets Inside, we had these mini arcade games essentially that were more active and more playable. We had the Doom and we had the little missile command things. Mm-hmm. But this was an entirely different thing because you're basically, you're gathering up material as it goes.
And in Muppets Inside, you're it was, I don't know how many different mini games, but the same mini games repeated with different variations on each one.
Right.
But in this, there are puzzles and little mini games, but they had to be, every single one had to be different in every scene. So how involved were you in coming up with those?
I think I was involved in sort of the initial meetings on what these were going to be and what the puzzles were. And then anything that had to be character content as a part of that. But I think that some of the other guys who were involved in the writing did most of that stuff.
Okay. So you didn't necessarily come up with going into Pops's shop and throwing pies at pirates through the window.
I think I may have helped come up with some of the ideas behind them, but the specifics were not.
Okay.
I mean, it's like they say, well, we need to throw something at somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, that one feels very Muppety. That one was fun to watch on the walkthrough. And good to see Pops. Like, there's a couple characters in this. JP Gross also has a line, which I'm sure that was your doing, deciding which of these characters would be included.
Yeah, and a lot of it is based on who's available. And
sure.
And, is JP Gross animated, or is he a
I think
puppet
it was
in there?
The puppet. I think he just popped out of, like, you click on a building and he popped out and said a line. And then so Fozzie's in the game as Squire Trelawney. I noticed in the walkthrough, I don't think there was a single reference to Mr. Bimbo.
That may have been because it's possible Mr. Bimbo wasn't in the script yet.
Okay.
I wouldn't swear to it, but I will tell you that if Mr. Bimbo was a part of it, I would have most certainly put in Mr. Bimbo into the CD-ROM. I'm a fan of Mr. Bimbo.
Okay.
I think that I remember there being a discussion between Kirk and Jerry and everybody about whether Mr. Bimbo should be in it, because I think Mr. Bimbo was a Kirk thing.
I think that's right from what we've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that Jerry may have thought it was a little too far out there. And I think that for a while they were going back and forth, and movie hadn't been shot yet. So I may have been told to ease off on Mr. Bimbo. Just in case he gets cut. But yeah, I certainly would have put Mr. Bimbo in it if I knew so much.
Okay. I mean, Fozzie is still funny in the game. He's just telling jokes and being a little bit dumb like Fozzie. So he's
and then I remember there was a time where I just had to come up with tons of pirate jokes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of them?
I think it's in there. It's like, did you hear about the pirate who was selling corn? He sold it for $1 a year.
There it is. There it is.
Ah.
Yeah, and there's a scene where you go into Squire Trelawney's office, and it's framed. He has on his walls framed versions of those. Is it the Hermitage collection? Those paintings.
One of the things that when you're doing the CD-ROM games, anything you can use that's existing content, is appreciated by all of the art directors. So you're like, hey, what can we put on the walls here? Hey, we got pictures.
Yeah,
we got these,
they're like classical paintings, so it fits.
Yeah, and it's also a fun little Easter egg, so to speak, for the Muppet fans.
Yeah, that's neat. So was there ever any possibility of including songs from? And like you said, there are clips at the very end of the game, but of including any of the songs from the movie in the game?
Not as far as I recall. I think that they just there are certainly legal issues around doing that, and I think that they just didn't think it was that kind of game.
Okay,
that they wanted to. There's as I forgot until I watched it, is that there is use of musical scoring that's pretty robust and pretty nice.
And there's a mini game, like a sort of memory game at a piano, where you end up playing some public domain traditional songs.
Right. Public domain indeed. Yeah. That's one of the things we had to pay, because at that point in time, I remember when we did the Muppets Inside game, and we had we did the music bit where we had Beaker, Animal, and Swedish Chef sing a bunch of songs
in the Scope That Song game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was harder to research what was in the public domain.
Oh.
So it's like we thought some of these songs that were in, like, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, you'd think it's in the public domain. And now it is, I think. But in 1994, I don't think it was, even though everyone thought it was. And there was, we didn't really have a lot of ways to research that.
Yeah, I bet it's
on the
easier
internet.
now to look
It's
that up.
much easier now.
Yeah.
So I think retroactively they did have to pay a license for one or two of the songs we did for that. They didn't grumble too much about it because it wasn't a horrendous amount of money.
Okay.
But as long as it was like, okay, if it was like 20 songs, they'd be grumbling more.
Oh, yeah,
I think that we had like 2 songs that we ended up doing that were not public domain.
Yeah. One thing that we've heard a couple people talk about, like a vivid memory from this game, and on the YouTube comments, many people called this out. The sequence, the stargazing sequence, where the player connects stars to make constellations. And Tim Curry describes what they are, and they're all sort of Muppet. Like, I think Sweetums is Hercules, maybe. So
that does sound familiar.
One is Mad Monty fighting a snake.
Yeah. That's Perseus, maybe.
I suppose so. Yeah.
I could take credit for it, but I don't think that was me in terms of.
Oh, you don't think you wrote this?
I don't think so. Or they may have given me the things, and I said, "Well, write it out for as Long John Silver would say it." So it's possible. Okay. But I think that some of the stuff, it takes a long time to develop a game like this.
Yeah.
You're doing it for a year, and things get done and redone and undone and done again. So sometimes, you're trying to, you shoot as much as you can shoot during your 5 days when you're in the studio or however long they were in.
Right.
And then you're adding stuff and you're subtracting stuff. And then it's like, oh, we need Tim Curry to record another track or something. And I think that was he on camera or off camera when he did that?
I think he comes on camera at the very beginning of that sequence, maybe, and then it's just his voice when you're actually
because then it might have been something that was shot and then got him to voiceover later. It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, but to Tim Curry's credit, I mean, he's not phoning it in. He's full.
No, because
John Silver
I think one of the benefits is that he was there doing the movie.
Yeah.
And so it's not a case of, oh, I got to go in and do this video game and I'm going to put on the makeup and everything. He's there for the movie.
Yeah.
This is like, okay, we need 2 hours to reset for the shot. Go over
so
across
he's already
the way.
In the zone.
He's already in the zone. He's already in movie making land.
Right.
So I think that, and also if you see Tim Curry, he's not a guy who ever phones anything in.
No, it doesn't seem so. No. Did you get to meet him at all during this process?
I did not, no. But I will say that when they were doing the casting, they were, figuring out who it was going to be. And my boss at the time, and I was in the process of moving from the public relations department to creative services. And I had made that move by the time we were doing this. I had already made the move, but the person who was passing on information about the casting was my old boss, who was in charge of public relations. And she had and has an English accent. She's from England. Susan Barrett. Susan, if you're listening, hi. And she said, "Oh, they've cast Long John Silver. It's going to be Jim Carrey." And we're like, "Jim Carrey?" "No, not Jim Carrey. Tim Carrey." "I think you're saying Jim Carrey." "No, Tim Carrey." And it took a long time to figure out she was saying Tim Curry because it kept sounding like Jim Carrey. And that would have been an interesting thing. But he was very new at the time. It would have been a
very different type of performance, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a big get for him, because he was still doing In Living Color, I think, in 1994.
I guess around
just about to end,
casting,
or 19. Well, this is 1996, so I guess so.
I'll just go ahead and tell you, we actually heard that story once before on the season of the podcast. It was told to us by your wife, Stephanie DeBruzzo.
Oh, well, there you go.
But I wonder where hearing your version of it.
Yeah. Well, she knows, when she first came to New York, and she was doing temp work at Henson for Susan, for my old boss. And So she had heard a lot of
So
that
she was there
accent.
for that conversation. Yeah,
She
that's
may
really
have been,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I have anything else that we haven't already covered. I think that might be about it. Anthony, did you have any other questions about the CD-ROM?
No, I think that covers all of my notes.
One of the I want to say that it was so much fun to do both the Treasure Island and the Muppets Inside CD-ROMs because it was so new, which meant that
Yeah.
no one else at the company really was giving you a lot of notes on it because they didn't
We
understand
didn't
it.
know. Yeah.
I remember my boss, Michael Frith. I gave him notes on Muppet. I gave him the script for Muppets Inside for notes, and I get it back, and he wrote on at the beginning. Well, there's an ending on page 7, and that goes on for another 130 pages. I don't quite understand why. I'm sure it's fine. So, as long as by the time I was doing this, I knew the characters pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
So it was great to be able to sort of be left alone. And the people that I was getting the notes from were the game designers and producers who were basically just telling me what could work in terms of the technology. And,
Right.
it was all about how can we fit it into the quarter screen? How can we make a creative solution to deal with the limitations? And that's what I sort of came up, that attitude continued with me through everything else I did at Muppets. It's like, let's take the limitations and turn them into assets, turn them into something that we can really make fun of and go
creative
with. And that's, where you end up doing things that are really true to the character and funny because you're not hiding behind these limitations. You're sort of shaking them, you're embracing them and making fun of them.
Yeah. Had you played any CD-ROM games before you started working on this one?
I think they gave us a couple to play around with. Starwave was the company that did Muppets Inside. Mm-hmm. They didn't really have a lot of other games beforehand. They ended up getting bought later on by Disney.
Wow.
And Activision, they hadn't really done a lot of CD-ROM games because they had started doing games in the Atari era.
Oh, okay.
They were doing like Atari 2600 games for a while, and this was before they got big with the later games that they were doing, all of the first-person shooters and all of the other things that they became a very large gaming company. From this. Yeah, exactly. So I really wasn't that familiar with, and the CD-ROM area was sort of still figuring out what it was because you have an encyclopedia on CD-ROM and you have
Encarta,
yeah.
I remember the Monty Python CD-ROM coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Shortly before this, which was kind of a similar, like you're pointing and clicking and making things happen.
But I didn't really do a lot because up until when I started working on it, I certainly didn't have a computer at work that could handle this.
Right.
And my computer at home was not much stronger.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
I wish that I had a computer now that I could play this on. I still have my copy of the game.
If anyone out there knows a way that we or Craig can play the Muppet Treasure Island CD-ROM on modern computers.
But the YouTube playthroughs are fun because you get to do that without having to try and hook up a Windows 95 software.
Yeah, it's a little easier.
I feel bad that, I wish that, because now that Disney owns both the Starwave archive and the Muppets, that they could figure out a way to sort of make playable versions of at least the mini games in a higher
I would love that.
Higher definition. It's so sad when you have this content. There's so much content that Disney has, not just with Muppets, but all of their franchises and all of their stuff. There's so much. They have a lot on Disney Plus, but there's so much that they don't have. There's just
yeah, there sure is.
I think Disney Plus probably has like 3% of the Disney vault represented.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. No, it's funny how often somebody will mention a movie, a Disney movie, and you go, oh yeah, let's watch that on Disney Plus. Nope, it's not there.
Yeah, and now they have the 20th Century Fox library too. So
yeah, how much of that is there? Yeah, it is. It's a lot of people have a lot of really good memories of this game, as evidenced by the comments on that YouTube video. So, yeah, people are still thinking about it, still remembering it. So,
well, and I think shout out to Kirk Thatcher, because he's the reason that I got to do it.
Yeah, I guess then that'll do it. Again, listeners, let us know if you know how we can play this game.
Don't say that. People will send you hard drives or not hard drives. They'll send you CD-ROM drives and Windows 95 disks.
They really want to.
Great. I'll take them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Anthony has so much. Anthony has an RCA Selectavision player, so he knows.
It's true. I have a Zenith Selectavision player.
Do you have a CED disc player?
Well, yeah. So that's the same thing.
Oh, okay. I have a Muppet Movie CED disc.
Yeah, me too. I got the Muppet Movie. I got Caper. I got Manhattan, and I have both Tales from Muppet Land discs. Which the first one is Bremen and Emmett Otter. The second one is Cinderella and Frog Prince, which seems like it should be opposite.
I have a Laserdisc player. I still have a Laserdisc player.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I wish I did. I have Muppet Christmas Carol on Laserdisc, signed by Dave Goles and David Rudman when I've met them, but I do not have a player. Yeah,
too bad.
Let me know if you want to borrow my Muppet Christmas Carol Laserdisc.
I think I might still have mine, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I guess that's it for this bonus episode on the Muppet Treasure Island CD-ROM. Listeners, you can find us Tough Pigs on the internet at toughpigs.com. We're all over social media, TeePublic, Patreon, you know the drill. Anthony and I are on the Letterboxd and Blue Sky with our usual handles that we say every week. Craig, where can people find you on the internet?
CraigShemin.com, salmonfriendsbook.com, and Instagram, Craig.Shemin, and I think Sam and Friends Book or something similar to that. Right. And yeah.
And again, the next book is
the Sam and Friends script book will be available next year to celebrate 70 years of Sam and Friends. And we do screenings every month at the Museum of the Moving Image. So in October and November, big stuff celebrating a very important person in the Muppet Henson canon.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. So everybody keep an eye out for further details on all of that stuff. And everybody, please leave us a positive review anywhere you can and tell everyone you know about this podcast. And join us again next week for another regular format episode of Moving Right Along. See you then.
And let me know when they add the Oxbow incident to Disney Plus.